there's nothing to do for it if we don't do something radical now. And that's the planet is on fire. The drought. I think Vancouver was like 120 degrees 2 weeks ago. Obviously the hurricanes that are increasing and increasing. We're not even talking about the water shortage across the world. And in America, you were talking about those bankers. Well, they're investing more and more in water. I wonder why. So all of these economic and structural, let's just call it what it is, stupidity, corruption, ignorance. It's all going to look like child's play if we don't do anything right now uh, about the climate crisis. And even in this 3.5 trillion reconciliation package, and I think there are some good things in there, but I agree with you. It's not the scale of the problem. It's Band-Aids to a gunshot wound. What are your thoughts on, in the context of everything you've been talking about? We're basically at a point where they're telling us it's already too late.
Here's the strange irony, the way it plays out in my thinking. I do have, for a whole host of personal reasons, fairly often occasion to speak with big businessmen and women in this country. I've lived in the United States all my life. I've worked here all my life. I was born in Ohio, right in the middle of the country, all the rest. They know, many of them, about the climate issue. But their problem, which I become aware of when I speak with them, goes something like this. We have been successful in our lives by playing the capitalist game. We look around for investment opportunities that seem relatively low risk, relatively high payoff. We work very hard to identify those opportunities, and then we move to take advantage of them. We get into production. We hire people to do the work. We hire people to find the markets for what we produce, goods and services. And it has made us grow, and it has made us wealthy, and it has made us pillars of our communities, and so on. And yes, the climate is a terrible problem. But we wouldn't know any other way to deal with it than to continue what we've been doing, because it has worked so well for us. And then if I push them and I say to them, yes, but the water, they say, yeah, but I live in a community where we filter all the water. We have very expensive filters. We take the city water. It's all filtered in a way before it even enters our plumbing in each of our homes. And if you continue this conversation, you begin to hear they have escapes. They think they can escape, and they have found escapes, and they credit their ability to afford the escapes to the money they made in the course of all of their activity. Right, make a long story short, they're stuck. They're stuck. They understand there are big problems, but they think somebody more equipped to handle them, some politician, somebody else is going to be able, they hope, to solve that problem. It's not their expertise. It's not what they know how to do. It's not what they do well. And they don't mind giving some money to an environmental movement organization. They believe it. They think people should understand these things better than they do. They are worried. They have a relative who lived near a fire somewhere in Napa County in California. Yeah. They don't deny all of this, but it's sort of, they look at me and they say, what do you expect me to do? And it reminds me when they do that the conversation I used to have about poverty. People feel badly for those folks who live in doorways. I live in New York City. You can't walk 5 blocks without stumbling over people who are living in the doorway, who have nothing. We have many, many, many thousands of them in one city. It's a big city, but it's one city. And I talk to these same people, and they're empathetic. They feel bad about it. They give some money to help develop shelters or to have their church have a free food program. But beyond that, they look at me, what do you want me to do? I'm working very hard. I'm providing good jobs for a lot of people. And you begin to understand that everybody is stuck in this situation. And if you read books about what happened at the end of the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the British Empire, you will hear very similar stories. We look back and say to ourselves, how could they not see this problem overtaking them and that problem? How could they be so blind? How could they be so blasé about? That's what they're going to say about us. That's what they're going to say about it. And our defenders in the future will find those of us who had podcasts or wrote articles or books and said something. And then the question will only be a little bit different. Well, there were some voices, as by the way, there always have been.
Right.
Well, why weren't they listened to? Why weren't they? I have a friend who's a reporter. Well, I don't mind telling you his name, Robert Henley. And he's worked for CBS and a lot of folks. He published a book a few weeks ago, which we worked on with him, and he came up with a fantastic title. Robert Henley, Stuck Nation. All one word, Stuck Nation. It's been a kind of a flashlight in the darkness for me. It captures what I want to say in answer to your question. We have capable people, smart people, skilled people. Americans are as capable as anybody else. But we are stuck, and the things are falling apart around us, and we don't get unstuck, most of us. Younger people, people in movement because they can't stand it anymore, like those strikes you pointed out a few minutes ago. That's the people who aren't stuck anymore. And I'm afraid it's to them that we have to turn our hopes that they can galvanize, provoke, inspire the rest of us to get unstuck. By the way, as I told you, I'm an optimistic person. Part of me is more excited by the movement I see around me in the United States than all my analysis tells me about the economy. I only talk about the economy because Americans want to hear about it. Economic literacy, I hope this won't be misunderstood. Economic literacy in this country is very low. I don't know what that's about. I think my profession, professional economics professor, is what I am, we have done one terrible job. We must have scared away generations of young people from the courses we tried to teach. Either it was too technical or too boring or too depressing. I don't know what it was, but the understanding is just really low. And I think
Well, you could thank the media for that as well.
the media too treat it it's awful. That's right. It's just, and then the politicians are, doing PR with statistics, so you can't keep straight what the heck is going on. It's a terrible set of circumstances, and it gives me always that image that cousin of mine once gave me. Imagine people on a beach, and they're all facing away from the water in towards the sand and the countryside. But coming in from the ocean is a tsunami. And you're the one who's facing the ocean, and you're trying to gesticulate to get them to turn around so they can see they shouldn't be facing you. They're going to be washed away by this, and you can't get them to turn around. They insist on looking this way, and the wave is coming, and the wave is going to overwhelm them. I have that sense. I really do. I'm just hoping there are enough people coming out of the countryside that they will eventually, in some last minute, get people to understand. I was hoping that the disaster in Afghanistan would, but very quickly our media turned us to have empathy for the people trying to get on the airplanes to leave the airport. And it's easy to have empathy. That's a pathetic, horrible spectacle. Reminds me of what I remember seeing in 1975 about Vietnam's airport, Saigon's airport, too. But that's not the lesson we need to learn about. That at the very end, you leave behind people who are now trapped by what they did, who they associated with when the wind changes. That is awful. But that's not the major lesson here. What did we do for 20 years? Going to war against two Muslim countries, poor ones, with all the apparatus of our military. What happened? What mentality produced it? Why did we stay there? By the way, European newspapers referred to it as the American loss in Afghanistan at least 2 years ago that I could see in the media there then. So, for the rest of the world, these are questions, and no one knows the answer. Everyone I know in Europe, part of my family is European, is rethinking. And I'm going to be a little blunt now, but I want to make the point. They're asking themselves this question: are we allied to the wrong country? Trump and everything since is making it harder and harder to answer that question the way it was answered for the previous 50 years. We are at a major turning point, and Americans don't seem to want to see what the issue is, let alone have the kinds of debates and conversations that might produce a good answer.